Greetings and welcome to transitioning from virtual world student to pro. My avatar name is Kreatya Shannon, and in real life I am Shannon Broden, Masters of Library and Information Systems graduate from San Jose State University. Additionally, I hold a Master's in Communication from California State University, Fullerton. Please feel free to take a note card from the box in front of me for a Google Slides link, rather a note card that has a Google Slides link to a copy of the presentation, if you need it to follow along or just review later. Though we'll have discussion at the end, please feel free to type questions and comments in chat as you have them. I'm really into interactive discussion. Many of you have met me as part of VCARA, the Virtual Worlds Interest Group that has been at San Jose State University since 2009, that I was in when I was still a student. Now, if any of you have looked at my profile, do not let my res date fool you as far as my level of experience. This avatar was originally created in 2012 when I worked in the commercial virtual world space. And I was trying to get a lay of the land in terms of what was out there. While I worked in the commercial space, I had interns, and that was my first taste of teaching and mentoring. While my employment stayed in tech, it led me elsewhere, into positions where I had neither interns nor people who reported to me. So, coming to San Jose State University a decade later, I discovered they had a presence in Second Life, and at that point reactivated my avatar. And that is where the journey begins. Now, to be clear, San Jose State being a remote program, well, at least for me, there's regular session and special session students. But for me, being a remote program, there weren't many opportunities to actually handle virtual reality tech. There were a few times I was able to do shifts at the school's American Library Association and California Library Association booths, where I got to use the MetaQuest and the HoloLens. Though we will talk about other virtual worlds today, most of my experience that has formed me has come from Second Life. Today's discussion will begin with a bit of a run-through my own personal journey and then leave some time for discussing strategies to help students transition to emerging professionals. Now back to me. Here's a picture of my avatar when I first returned to Second Life. I had some updated hair and clothes from when I had first created it from my prior style, and then I had to figure out how to adjust. I mean, I didn't know anybody who was around. So I did have to find a new body type and slowly changed out pieces of clothing to make a new look. So not really knowing how to find a tutorial area, I basically had to teach myself navigation and menus again, all from the very beginning. Now, in my first round in Second Life, I never really did any building or even owned any land to decorate. So that's why my early projects for VCARA are more like dressing sets. In the Elizabeth Barrett Browning house, that's the one on the left, I put up note card givers and learned how to embed a small amount of audio into an item. Now, the Victorian Post Office, that was the one on the right. In that one, I emphasized integrating a presentation within a build. Oh, thank you for letting me know that about the slides, Val, because as we know, they were working before the presentation. I see them. So that's not a good thing. I had a problem with this yesterday when I was testing too. Not here, but elsewhere. Okay. This is the thing. You always learn to roll with it. So that showed something, but it was the end. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They weren't operating the way they normally would. And yes, Bethany's right. Tech issues are a thing in all worlds. Can you see them now? Okay, there's my introduction. I said, there's me wearing the HoloLens at, I think it was ALA 2023. Here, can you see the picture of my original avatar now, just to confirm? Okay, looks like you can. All right, so I'll take you to the next one. Life happens, we roll with it. This is part of learning to educate and just go with it. So, okay, here's what I was talking about. The Browning house is the one on the left, where I was embedding items into the various note cards, learned to embed some audio inside the Victorian record player. On the right-hand side, the post office, I was just integrating a presentation board there about the telegraph and the evolution of the telegraph there. Again, thank you very much for the heads up on that. Much appreciated. I'll just see where the speakeasy is. Okay, advancing to the next slide. So, being a part of the inaugural VWEC Student Challenge, now that really pushed me to stretch myself. Because as I mentioned, I hadn't really worked with any kind of teamwork. Though they were offered beginning classes in print building as part of the challenge, they were not enough, especially since I was just an individual competitor. We had a couple people that were interested, but not enough people available from VCARA to form a team. So in the end, for the student challenge, there were only 2 individual competitors from SJSU. So in the end, in order to learn what I wanted to learn, I went to 3 different building schools on my own. One was Builders Brewery, and then 2 other ones. And that way I learned about prim twisting and texturing. This is because my school did not have structured virtual world classes, at least for Second Life, except through special studies. And even then, not for Second Life. It was all independent work. So I had to learn this all on my own. Now, I also learned some basic scripting, and that wasn't covered in the challenge training. So for me, learning that consisted of going to some Builders Brewery classes on my own, largely intermediate actually. Fortunately, I had done some programming work in some other languages. And then also trying to follow exercises from books, such as the authorized ones that Linden Labs did a number of years ago, and we all know how scripting evolves over time, so that was kind of hit and miss. Now, for a pre-recorded video presentation for a conference at SJSU called the CPGE conference, I broke down the methodology and approach of my student challenge exhibit. So I did wind up sharing about my experiences with my school. Now I'd like to get back to VCARA. Earlier, as I said, I mentioned VCARA. Those hours in the student challenge were done as part of an in-house internship. I earned credits for the semester. And for some of the remaining hours, I helped VCARA launch new social media presences on LinkedIn and Instagram. Also, part of this internship led to partnering with Virtual Ability to lay the groundwork for revising their consumer health library. It has instilled in me a passion to work with other virtual communities that reach niche audiences and want to set up their own libraries in their areas. Now, I also had never made machinima until I started in VCARA. The first one I ever made was for an internship progress report for the internship I just mentioned. And the last one I made before graduation is the fall 2024 orientation video for VCARA, which I believe may still be in use. Now, I have to say this. I cannot thank VWBPE, Virtual World's Best Practices in Education, enough for the opportunities it gave me as a student. I found out about it through chance when someone mentioned that they were looking for student posters for the 2023 conference. And for that, I did one on the Browning House. We talked about that earlier. In 2024, I would return with a set of posters since all the different Student Challenge participants were offered the opportunity, which I took. And that same year, VWBPE also graciously let me share the prototype of a wellness exhibit that I was working on for the VCARA Coral Reef area. And that wellness project would challenge me to try new virtual environments as I sought to create ways to share the same information. And those would be in Frame VR and Spatial. And for that, I have to credit the VR Exploders for being great mentors, for letting me go along with them on monthly excursions. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of the VR Exploders, it's a group of educators from all over the world who visit different virtual worlds each month. I learned so much that way, and I am so grateful to you folks. Also, I was offered the chance to do volunteer work in virtual worlds when I met members of the Community Virtual Library through networking. And after doing some shifts at the Info Center, I was eventually offered the chance to help lead the Directories project in Second Life in Kitely. The Directories also provided my first opportunities to speak on panels, at conferences, and in groups. I would be part of presentations on how to use the Directories for Second Life's nonprofit commons, at Virtual World's Best Practices in Education, and for the OpenSim Community Conference. Finally, I developed the confidence to present on my own for the first time at the Virtual Worlds MOOC 2024. Now, as my student work, this is across the board for school, wrapped up, I learned how to use the ADDIE instructional model to make several teaching videos, screenshots of which you can see here. One of these was for instructional design, one on the left. The other for a situation where I was a peer mentor to students that were just incoming to the Masters of Library and Information Science program. Now, as far as Virtual Worlds, as that year was drawing to a close, I appeared as part of a VCARA readings for the Dickens Project, as I had the last several years. I was also asked to represent the student perspective on the VWEC Expert Series panel about the work of the Dickens Project. For my work in Virtual Worlds, the California Library Association awarded me with the Technology New Leader Award for 2024. Now the thing is, even with all that, I felt like there was so much left to learn when I graduated. I knew that I had found that passion and interest in wanting to teach others, but what came next? And to this, I'm very grateful to Integrating Technology, who also runs Virtual Worlds MOOC, for allowing me to take courses with them the last couple months, even though I'm not a completely certified educator. This has allowed me to learn the LMS platform Moodle, as my school exclusively used Canvas. The first course I took focused on AI tools for teachers, where I created a sample course on digital literacy in virtual worlds. I'd really like to do something like that someday. Recently, I finished a second class on AI tools for student collaboration. Here, I was exposed to tools that assist students and educators alike. Now, as far as what I did in the real world, too, I spent the last year or so providing one-on-one smartphone help 3 Tuesdays a month for a local library, teaching people new to technology how to use email and text, or about how to use photo functions. It was a great way to teach people and learn to tailor to their individual needs. So what do I feel were the takeaways of my personal journey from student to emerging professional? In my personal experience, the VWBPE Student Challenge showed the best use of virtual learning by being able to create visual artifacts to illustrate concepts. And I don't mean just for me, I mean by watching everybody else who were, like I said, with the exception of my fellow student from SJSU, were all teens. I learned a lot by watching the teams work. I wasn't there day to day as they built their projects, but understanding what they were able to do was immensely educational for me. Now, I think for more critical thinking, looking at something like the way the Virtual Worlds MOOC is set up, it seems to me, well, at least based on my experience so far, that a hybrid model with an LMS would still be a must. Though you can have in-world group discussions, individual reflection still seems like it would be a challenge to master directly in the virtual world, I mean. Now, enough about me, because I think I've done enough talking. I'd really like to see if we could discuss this together, because I only know my story. I'd like to learn what you've learned working with your students. I have some starter questions I'll pose. I think they're already on the screen. And if you share your thoughts in chat mainly so I don't have to retranscribe, that would be helpful and I could read the responses. But frankly, if you want to use voice, we can roll with that too. I'm fine. Being asked, you're doing real library work in a virtual world. Do I think it's important in the AI age? Absolutely I do. One of the biggest things is people can go to AI for answers, but there's still that gap between how to properly get the answers, how to know when we can trust the answers we're getting. And that's why I still think we talk a lot about digital literacy and digital citizenship. And I don't think those go away regardless of the tech that you're working with. Yeah. I think the essential skill, reading what I see here, I think the essential skill is a curious and growth mindset, but I'm finding that's not something everyone seems to have. Exactly. And it comes down to the question there, I think, of, is it teachable or not? I'm always a believer that we've got to try. If people are open to it, So someone has to be there to teach them. Who will? And I see another comment here. Critical thinking skills, Socratic method, and first principles in engagement practices. Excellent point. Honestly, and this is why I'm looking for other experiences, I feel spoiled by having grown up in a household where my dad was very much that kind of person. He wasn't a virtual worlds person, but he was a computer hardware person. This is what I grew up around my whole life. So this is why I look for understanding, why doing the one-on-one smartphone help was important to me, to understand people from different walks of life who you couldn't take it for granted how much you already understood. And, okay, going back to Bethany. Marie and I had hoped to see that browser-based VR, which is easier to access, would lead to more people embracing it, and that's not really happening. Now that you have experience in both, what do you think we can do to cultivate that? Oh, Bethany, I had hoped for that too, mainly because accessibility is a big passion for me, and I know there's some people that are never, ever going to be able to wear a headset. I think that's a tough one. I really hope that a lot of people continue to develop for both the hybrid platforms and make that available so that we can show people, here's the differences between the two, here's the advantages and the disadvantages. Because I talked about in the beginning very briefly how I never really was able, to hold our own stuff that you have there at the, I say this because Bethany works at SJSU where I went to school. There at the campus, they have the equipment that I only got to deal with those couple of times. And to see the exact same things that I had, for example, there was a prototype of a marketing room that we were working on that summer in one of the special studies in Mozilla Hubs. I looked at it browser-based the whole summer. I went to ALA and put on the MetaQuest for the first time, and I saw it completely differently. I saw how the UX was completely different. And it's making people understand that it's a matter of trying to meet both user sets of needs. One way is good for some people, but not for everyone. I don't see an easy solution to that yet. I feel like I'm rambling a little, and I apologize. Okay, I'm just scanning here for a minute. All right. Beth, pedagogy first mindset, figure out what you want to teach, then figure out whether virtual environments will help further that. Most definitely. Dee Dee says, we need to let our students know that failures are important to learning, not something negative. Absolutely. And I say this as somebody who fought for years against type A perfectionism. Yes, it has to be okay to fail because otherwise you don't learn. Willingness to fail a lot. A good sense of humor, which, yeah, it's sometimes hard to cultivate when you've got someone like me who's very, very serious, but you're right, we have to learn when to lighten up, and that was the big thing I had to get over. Belia says, yes, we need to get past the just give me the answer mode. Yep. There needs to be a willingness to ask for help and know it's Beth, and know it's okay to ask for help. That was also one of my hang-ups growing up. Will, you look at it like this. You can ask questions looking for a quick answer. You get an answer but not depth. Learning to ask questions not for an answer but to foster understanding is the real key. Dee Dee, less lecture and more constructive projects. Yep. Making use of that, because that's like totally making use of why are we in virtual worlds and not. But I think there's got to be a balance of that too. One does have real fingers, and real fingers do get tired. And I'm also saying from experience. Bethany saying, I was so excited years ago and now I feel a bit discouraged. I really thought more people would want to be moving past Zoom already. Me too. It's interesting to me. There's another group that I interact with socially. I don't know if they want to be identified. It's a group type of organization you would know. But most of the people in the group I'm in are, I'd say, 60 plus. Many of them are retired. We meet hybrid once a month and all Zoom once a month. Some of them are more fascinated with all the bells and whistles in Zoom. And yet if I try to describe what I do here, their eyes glaze over. And it's like, okay, I don't understand that. The Zoomosaurus. I'm going to steal that term, Bethany says. This is, that was Dee Dee's term. Very good. Well, again, it's something I notice a lot of people miss with AI, whatever. Not just looking for mutual understanding, but quick answers, not wanting to think about it. So whether an AI or otherwise, knowing to look for understanding and not just the answer. Again, back to the whole digital literacy thing. Teaching them how to ask questions, Brelia says. Yep, exactly. And Val, you're right. People are constantly flooded with new apps, social media, online tools, and now AI. It's hard to get them to get the time to investigate the metaverse, so we cannot be discouraged they do not come to hear us out, even though we know the potential. Asking me if I agree with that. Now, like I said, I came from for a while it was a commercial virtual world space, and I did do other things in tech. I can't drop company names, but it was all about trying to get people to do things through social media to interact with the company's intentions. And yeah, I would watch this go by as long as I've been in here. It's like I felt at times like we got too interested in what the tools could do and getting people caught up in all the fun of it for whatever the business wanted, and not teaching the responsibility side of it. And I guess that's why I keep harping on it. It's like at the time it's like, why didn't I see that? Yes, and yeah, there's just so many out there. It's just like they used to say, when it makes me think of like when cable TV first came out, dating myself, but yeah, I'm that old. The old, the old quote back then about 57 channels and nothing on. Now look at streaming and everything that's exploded exponentially. Yes. Thank you, Beth. I just got so nervous. I had intended to do that, and part of it's that I know that I'm being recorded, and I also can't have dead air. It's just tricky. I am so sorry, and it looks like she's answering me in German also. Yeah. Beth, again, that has been my intention. Okay. You're making me sick. That's so am I, but I get too nervous. I'm kicking myself. I really want to make sure people understand what's going on. So I think I've summed up the more important things. I'm trying. Okay. Will says, one of those things I tried to highlight in my ACM paper, that the metaverse ultimately ends up being a convergence of various spatial computing technologies and supporting tech like AI, etc., that are used in various ways in an ecosystem, not just a virtual world context, but interconnected. Yeah, I completely agree with Will's observations. It's not like one tech gets you everywhere at the moment. Um, yeah, just reading a series of people that are commenting. Um, I do agree with Val's point about small communities being powerful for learning intimately. What I'm curious, and I haven't really seen, is more on yet is how do we, for people that we have managed to get into virtual worlds, to at least get that basic interest, and they seem to be interested, kind of like me, in taking that next step. Like, I've learned stuff and I'd like to teach other people, but I don't know how to do that. How do we do? Is there a way to help folks that might want to, not even necessarily like formally an institution, and I'm not, say, at a building school, whether it's Bill's Brewery, Happy Hippo. I'm not being particularly picking any one of them. I actually sat in on classes at both of those places. That's what I personally really want to know, and I'm about to type that. I feel like there's a gap here, and it might just be me. Stephanie, that's what I'm wondering. Earlier, you had mentioned about the kids growing up in Minecraft will increasingly not be engaged with traditional education, and there won't be enough teachers who are comfortable with the gamified learning and being in world. I have met people who are passionate about Minecraft or Roblox, but they don't see it as a place they could teach others, even informally. Otherwise, at the risk of being crass, what we are doing right now, virtual worlds in education, is at the risk of dying out if we don't bring up more people. I cannot count how many people were at that one keynote where he says, how many years have you been in? And it was like 15, 18, whatever, and there's two of us are like 1 year, about 5, which was me. I was like, this is, I know that it's because you guys all know, but that just baffled me. Bethany saying, we need educators who can learn to create learning games that are engaging, gamified learning. I think if I were young in my career, I'd be focused on learning game design alongside curriculum design with VR. Yep, I'm going to concur with that, Bethany. Especially having worked in the commercial space. Mm. I don't think that we will get away from gamifying. They start really young now. Okay, I'm going to actually respond here. Okay, Val's talking about the kids are building themselves. The concepts of digital citizenship along other subject matter like sustainable living in the virtual environment. Val, I'm going to type a response here first. So Val, how would you train among the students to be leaders among their peers? Like, say somebody has a better skill set, or stronger at least. Would you encourage it? Okay. I see by looking at the clock we have just a few minutes that are left. I must thank you for bearing with me. I've been part of group stuff before, but never the lead, never juggling the speakeasy, and the slide hut is new to me. I've done a speakeasy before, and a discussion all at once, all by myself. So always room for growth and improvement. That is for sure. I know we have unpacked a lot. I know we have unpacked a lot. I don't think they're easy answers. I thank you all for your patience, as I said. My hope is that you'll think about what students can learn about themselves and their skills, not just the content. Discover their personal potential. Thank you all for coming.